Hey guys, it's RMRF. I've been thinking about Zig. Nobody has been asking me why I haven't tried Zig yet, and I'll tell you why. Is Zig better than C? Is Zig better than C++? Sure. Comparing your language to C++ isn't a very high bar, but there are a few major problems with Zig that really turn me away from the language. The first one, only being able to return errors as error codes. This is a massive problem. This means your errors can't have any context to them. If you return an error, you can't have any information about where the error came from unless you pass that back with a pointer. Another thing that really irks me the wrong way is the fact that there are no warnings in Zig. If you forgot to use a variable, well, have fun modifying your code. There is no such thing as a prototype in Zig. Zig expects all your code to be production quality. There seems to be a huge misunderstanding by the creator of Zig that when you create code, all code is supposed to be final. Not all code is meant to survive forever. Some code is just meant to be prototypes. Some code is meant to be throwaway code. It claims to be very explicit, but Zig is explicit in all the wrong places and implicit in all the places where it should be explicit. Another thing that sucks about Zig is every time you want an interface, you have to manually create the entire vtable. And this is a very common pattern inside of Zig. I've seen third-party Zig dependencies that might be able to do something like this, but you shouldn't need a package for such a common operation. Another massive problem with Zig is that your functions aren't checked unless you actually use them. Now, that's like a massive oversight. Imagine writing a bunch of code, and you compile it and you think it's good, but joke's on you. Another huge thing I really don't like about what I've seen from Zig so far is that when you have a generic function, when it's monomorphized, there is no guarantee that the monomorphized copy will actually be valid at all. To be fair, this is the same problem that C++ has. Now, for the async I/O, I'm a little bit on the fence about Zig's async. It does seem somewhat good, which is kind of surprising, but there are some key issues with it as well. First of all, it assumes that you have access to manipulate the stack, which obviously isn't the case. If you're running on WebAssembly, well, you're kind of out of luck. There's no such thing as async Zig on WebAssembly. In fact, one case where Zig is overly implicit is the structure of its async and concurrency. Whenever you use async and concurrency primitives, or they're not really primitives, but whenever you use them inside of Zig, it's essentially like using bare gotos. It's like you went back to the 80s and you're using gotos instead of structured async. You had to be very careful about cancellation. So Zig is explicit about lots of things that don't really matter, but it's implicit in the things that do matter, like contracts, type invariants, and all of those. You're completely on your own. Now, this is easy enough to manage if you're the only programmer on a project, but once you start working with other people, you quickly realize that not everybody is going to be able to magically maintain the invariants you hold in your head. I can see how Zig could be useful for projects that are single-threaded, but any complicated project that has multiple threads with things going in between the threads, like a thread scheduler or like a chase left deck in Zig, I don't see how that would be very ergonomic. A lot of people mention instability as one of the reasons that they avoid Zig, which is fair, but that's not even my main gripe with the language. Okay, this next point is massive. One of the largest reasons why I will never touch Zig until this thing is fixed. What I'm talking about here is ZLS. ZLS is a complete nightmare, at least from what I've heard. It either crashes constantly, or when it doesn't crash, it doesn't actually give you what you need, or when it actually does give you back feedback, the feedback is incomplete or inaccurate, etc. Having a language server that crashes constantly is not acceptable. Another annoying thing about Zig, I did try for like a few minutes its comp time, and you can't even return a function. There's no such thing as constructing a function at comp time and returning it. You have to create a struct and have the struct contain a function. Zig also seems to have no answer for other forms of coroutines other than async. Other features such as generators or other code that can suspend and resume, there isn't any features or support at all for these kind of patterns. Zig also does not help to solve any of the difficult problems related to threading. You can easily have data races, you can easily have use after freeze, and Zig does nothing to stop you. Another thing that's really annoying, that Zig does not seem to have any way to create higher level abstractions. You're stuck at this n equals 1 level of programming. Anyway, those are just some ramblings from me about Zig here. If you think I'm wrong, let me know.